All right, evening, everybody. Today we are going to be doing a review of Final Fantasy XIV from the perspective of a story writer and a 18 a year WoW player. um, so it was 4 years ago. WoW was having some issues with their Shadowlands expansion, and we had the great unsubbing of 2021. And so I lost a lot of my friends to Final Fantasy XIV in the big mass migration. So they said I should come over and I should join them and give another game a try. At that point, I'd been playing WoW for over 15 years. It's over half like my life at that point. And so I wasn't ready to jump. 2022, I finally start my journey with Final Fantasy XIV and the main story quest line. And I was determined to give it an honest try. A lot of folks, I feel like, quit within the first, that like they don't even finish the base game, let alone get into the expansions. But I'm pretty stubborn. If you're going to, before you quit something, you have to give it like an honest shot. So you have to play it enough that you don't just gravitate towards the familiar, because we tend to like things that are familiar. So you got to play it enough that it becomes the familiar, and then you can give an honest review. So at this point, it's 3 years later. I've just finished the Endwalker 6.0 main story quest line. I have leveled numerous classes to level 90. And you can tell I'm not fully converted to Final Fantasy XIV because I call them classes instead of jobs. But yeah, so I feel like I've got enough hours into this game. I've read all of the short stories I could. I've unlocked quite a few of the extra raids. I've played the heck out of this game. I really have. And so I feel like I can give that honest review now. So we're going to go about this in kind of a shit sandwich method, where we start off with my likes about the game. We go into things that I did not appreciate. And then we go into the things I loved about the game. And then we have a couple of questions from folks who have watched my entire journey through the MSQ that they asked and would like answers to. And then if you're still on the fence about joining this game, or if you've decided but you're not really sure how to start or how to approach it, I've got a few tips from my perspective, things that I wish that I had really internalized before embarking on this journey. So with that, we're going to start with my likes. I like that they acknowledge extra work that you do on the side. So for those who like go into doing the side content, those who do extra jobs or classes, because you can do multiple classes, combat jobs on a single character, they will fully acknowledge those in the MSQ. The cutscenes will shift or change slightly to call that out. You'll see cameos from things from your side quests that you wouldn't see if you hadn't done things. They'll make some of the NPCs will like make little jabs at you for experiences that your character has had from past side quests. Like I really liked that touch. It's not necessary to do all of the side content to enjoy the story, but I thought that was a nice touch for those that just kind of did it naturally. I liked that they tried to give a story reason to redo a lot of the dungeon content, the instance content in the story itself. So a lot of games will have like a normal version, a harder version, and then like mythic or heroic or whatever. The difficulties go up. Final Fantasy XIV will actually embed a reason that you're going in to do these things multiple times. So I thought it's a nice touch for a role player that they actually give you that reason, that the dungeon has either changed or that the enemies have gotten stronger. They explain that. I like that there's lots of ways to earn experience. You have a whole bunch of jobs on a single character that you can level. And if you just find questing boring, or you've done all of the questing to level one particular job and you have, 3 others, there's so many creative ways that they came up with to gain experience. Obviously, doing the main story quest gives the most bang for the buck, other than the dungeon roulettes that let you do a random dungeon each day for bonus dungeon, any sort of instance content with other players gains you a bonus, a massive chunk of experience and resources to do those daily. But the creative ones I thought were like the hunting log. If you're from World of Warcraft and you love hunting rares, like this is kind of appealing to that, where they will give you a list of creatures to go hunt. They'll kind of tell you the general region that it's in, and then you go hunt them, and you kill like 3 or 5 of them, and you gain a chunk of resources and experience. The fates, if you just like killing random things or doing favors for people. The sightseeing log I thought was one of the most interesting ways to foster those resources and experience. Was the game knows it's pretty. And it even has a built-in screenshot taker. You can adjust the lighting and everything. So it knows it's pretty. It knows that its landscapes are vast and just really gorgeous to look at. And so they have a sightseeing log for every expansion that says, hey, you should go to this vantage point and take a picture. And you'll go do these things. And some of them are like, how do I get up there? So for you explorers out there, that is a big appeal, and that's another way to gain resources and XP. And then the challenge log for the achievement hunters. So just having like a weekly challenge list of do these things, and you gain money or different types of currencies and experience for that. So lots of ways to earn experience other than your traditional do dungeons, do quests. I liked that the story stayed platonic. A lot of stories, they feel like they have to throw in the romancing agenda, and there is none of that in here. And I appreciated that. I thought that there was a lot of opportunities it could have, and so of course the internet is shipping different combinations of NPCs, but I liked that the actual story never really got into that. It would flirt with it in some cases just enough, but it wasn't overbearing. If you want that, go play Baldur's Gate 3. So I also liked that all of the NPCs were varied, and to the point where they all have like their niche quirks that make excellent meme fodder. So that they're all very identifiable, unique characters with their own wants, their own dreams and personalities. You've got even characters that you would think should be very similar, it's very evident that they diverge, and there's personal character growth for all of them, and then I also really like the duty support system that they have. So for those who haven't played the game, duty support is where you just you can do the dungeon content, and even like one raid content, maybe more now, but with NPCs. And the NPCs don't suck. They were a little new at raiding, but with the duty support stuff, or even the squadron command, where you get your own little troop of troops, you can go into dungeon content with them, and they don't totally suck. They're not going to be as hardcore as players pulling wall to wall until from between bosses and destroying massive amounts of trash, but they don't suck. They do get out of the way and evade mechanics, and a lot of times they'll end up teaching you how to do the mechanics. So I really liked the duty support system. Final Fantasy had that way before World of Warcraft did. And I think they did it very well and very right. All right, so moving on to the things that I did not appreciate. And I'll try to not make this sandwich a little too meaty inside. Um, to make it short, I did not appreciate the anime-isms. And some people will probably look at me and be like, hey, dummy, it's made as a Japanese RPG. Yeah, it's gonna be an anime thing. And it's like, yes, but, and I used to be a big anime fan, but there's a whole lot of things about anime that I feel like they kept that were just bad, the bad things about anime. So for example, I am really against children, so people under 18, fighting on behalf of adults. Like, that, to me, that just tells me that your adults are freaking incompetent and you're having to rely on teenagers to take this on. There's really only two characters in the game. Unfortunately, they're like a main two characters that they're not adults. And yet they're right alongside you fighting for the freaking universe. Like, I do not appreciate that. It's a very anime thing to do. I don't like it. I don't like the anime body dimensions. Like, when it's a cartoon, it looks fine, but this game is beautiful and it's in HD, and they keep the weird dimensions with the extra long neck and the weird pointed ears and WoW is cartoony, and it knows it's cartoony. This one forgot that it's in HD, and it kept the cartoony stuff. Little heads, big shoulders, tiny mouths and tiny bodies with like big eyes. Like, it looks strange. I also really don't like the Chosen One syndrome. Again, that's an anime thing. Or the extra long story with so much filler. It's like getting a chicken pot pie and realizing that while this big crust is beautifully domed, it's like all air, and the meat and potatoes down there taste delicious, but it's like down at the bottom layer, and it's a bunch of filler. It's a very anime thing to do. I remember watching Naruto, wanting to see one particular fight and having to watch 9 episodes of them having flashbacks and backstory stuff. Final Fantasy XIV does the exact same thing. Exact same thing, including the flashbacks. For reference, it took me 232 hours of MSQ and the mandatory job quests. I'm like not even counting my bonus content or the extra job quests that I did for my other classes, but like the mandatory job quests that you had to do in order to get your class powers and abilities, plus all of the MSQ. I recorded all of that, and 232 hours to complete this one story. From the level 1 of Realm Reborn to the end of Endwalker. 232 hours. Holy shenanigans. That's a long ass story. Like, most animes don't even last that long. Like, they might have 100 and some odd episodes that are like 20 to 30 minutes long. This one, hold your boots. I did not appreciate that of all of the ways to earn experience, side quests do not do that. They are basically just for lore purposes only. So if you're a big lore person, side quests might be your jam, but they don't offer a whole lot of experience. They don't really feel very rewarding to do. And then I really did not like that the majority of the content is MSQ-locked rather than level-locked. You could be max level because you just went and did roulettes for forever, but you'll be doing the same dungeons that you've unlocked via the MSQ. And that's it. Like, so you could be level 100, you could be level 90, whatever, but you still won't gain access to stuff that is pertinent to your level. So I have a problem with that, because I can kind of see why they did it, because they're like, ooh, spoilers. You don't want to do story spoilers, and it probably because they programmed it so that the first time you're doing it, you always have like a big cutscene at the end upon exiting the dungeon, and so it would probably mess up their coding if you were allowed to do it before you actually got to that point of the MSQ. But I just didn't like it, because then I would never get to know my new abilities, as I liked doing the dungeons, but maybe I wasn't ready to start tackling the MSQ again. I didn't like, speaking of the MSQ, I have a lot of notes on this just because of the story writer in me. But their storytelling medium and how they try to bounce between all the ways to tell a story, right? So different storytelling mediums specialize in different highlighted aspects. So, for example, if you want to get inside a character's headspace and really see like what are they thinking, how do they perceive the world, you write a novel. That's the power of the novel. You get into that headspace, and you can see from different people's perspectives. So I love the short stories that allowed me to really learn who the NPCs are that they publish on their website. And seeing the world through their perspective really helped me identify with them and bond with them a lot more. You use a song to convey emotion or a story in a really short time. You use a video to convey action or or emotional expression. You use a game for when you want the viewer or the consumer to experience the journey, right? So they definitely do that part pretty well with it, because it's a game and you're experiencing this thing, and they're like, man, you've been with us a really long time. It's like, no shit, you've made me do all these things, like experience every day of this person's life. I so much as fart and there's a cutscene, like, holy crap. But I didn't like that the cuts, you bounced between like a comic book manga style where it's silent and it's just dialogue boxes, to you have these cutscenes, but it's still silent, but you're seeing their reactions, and then it would be like full on cutscenes where they've got voiced stuff, and then you finally, after like an hour of just watching everybody talk, you finally get to do a dungeon or something. Like, I thought they really overdid it. I was like, these are, I get that you're trying to put all of the lore into the game, but I don't think the execution really hit the mark there. It cheated different aspects of the story out of that, just because they were using the wrong medium to convey those things. When you try to get inside somebody's head, but you're showing a video of it, it means that they're talking a lot and they're saying a lot of their feelings, and it's boring. Somehow, when you're experiencing it through reading the novel and you're seeing it from their perspective, not as boring, because they're not telling you, they're describing it to you. Like, it's not dialogue. It doesn't have to all be dialogue. So just the storytelling medium bouncing around, I felt I did not appreciate. I couldn't tell if I was watching a movie, an anime, reading a manga, or playing a game occasionally. Felt more like I was doing one of the other three, and then sometimes I would be able to kill three things, and then I'd get back to talking. At least that's the MSQ. Everything else about the game that was fine, but the MSQ is just all talky and traveling. I didn't like mismatch the mismatch environment music. Everybody's crazy about the music in this game, and some of it is very, very good. I shouldn't say that. All of it's very, very good. But when they would put some of this music to the context in the game, it didn't match. the dungeon Snowcloak comes to mind, where you're going through and you're fighting ice creatures and you're like, I'm trying to get my badassery on, and instead the music is like this beautiful lullaby elevator music, and you're like, how am I supposed to kick ass to this? Like, and they did something like that. That's like the most egregious one that I can remember. But it was very often that it would do this. It got better towards Endwalker when they would change the music of the environment based on what part of the MSQ you were in. But yeah, there was just a lot of the dungeons and content that happened or that they put together was just, it did not get me in the mood to go kick ass like a big superhero. Even though that was the mission. Let's see. Oh boy. The half-assed lore references. So they drop a lot of big names in this storyline, like names from other lores. And what kept ticking me off is that it was like a false promise. Like you would hear a name and you'd be like, I know that from this other mythology, and it's, you know, and you immediately think of all these different associations that according to that name. And the only thing that these writers would do is take the name, maybe the race of the original lore, and then like one or two of the relationships that the character had. And that's it. And then they would change everything else. Like, so people would be like, oh, it's you know, you can't say his name. We go, and I'm like, yes, you can. You can totally say their name. You can say there's a Bahamut, there's a Tiamat, there's an Odin, there's, you know, and Hades, Artemis, and Hermes. Like, these are big names. You cannot associate them with anything you know about their original lore. They have nothing to do with any of that. And it just felt like a betrayal because they changed so much about it. And so you would hear the names and you would expect to see, like, if you say Hades, I'm expecting the whole rest of the pantheon somewhere. And instead, you're getting like 3. And that's it. And they make no mention of anybody else. They don't, you know, and you're like, okay, so you just, pick this name because you thought it was cool? Like, I don't know. I did not appreciate that. Like, when you're writing a story, if you're going to lore drop some things from other stuff, or name drop some stuff from other lore, the key to hold that, like, the golden ratio is about 60% familiar, 40% twist, right? And so this is why fairy tales have perpetuated for so long. Pretty much everybody knows some version of the base story, and then every retelling is 60% of what you know, and then 40% some new spin. I feel like Final Fantasy XIV just threw that ratio out the damn window and was like 10% familiar, 90% totally new. And it just felt like it did the original lore references dirty. Like, at that point, there's not enough of there to be familiar. It's you just made a new character, okay? Like, don't lead me into thinking that I'm gonna go kill the Lord of the Underworld, okay? Like, that just they did him dirty. Mechanics wise, so a little far away from the MSQ, don't appreciate how reliant some of the tank classes are on their healers. Like, if I'm looking for somebody who's who's hardy as a class, unlike obviously this is the WoW player coming out, because WoW has their WoW tanks are like super OP, and healers are kind of just there for everybody else, or to dispel something. But otherwise tanks are primarily self-sufficient. In this game, it's totally team dynamic. You must rely on each other. Tanks don't do a whole lot of damage. Healers don't do a ton of damage either. You must have your DPS there. You only get 2 of them in dungeon content. And then, if both of them don't have any AoE abilities, or are really, depending on the level, you're hurting. So you do have to rely on those team dynamics and pick your team well, or adjust your tactics based on the team that you have. So that kind of a double-edged sword. Yes, healers have job security. I like playing healer. The problem is then your tanks pull like they do in WoW, where they have a whole bunch of things attacking them at once. And then the healer is just stuck spamming their heal, because it's not necessarily because the tank just sucks, but it's because the tank's abilities suck. Like 10% damage reduction, everything is about just enough to take the edge off, that your healer has just enough time to hit the spam heal button to keep you alive long enough for all of the DPS to try and mow things down. But even then, that they're not mowing anything down very fast, like at all. Like all of your stuff is synced to that level. So it's always challenging, even though you have this mindset of, hey, I'm max level character, I should be able to mow things. Nope, it's not that way. Like I don't appreciate it. I earned that power. I should be able to use all of my powers and feel powerful, while still feeling slightly challenged. Just not like, oh my God, I'm going to freaking die because I pulled 2 groups. Like, jeez. Story mode versus multiplayer mode. Final Fantasy XIV is one contiguous game, not contiguous, homogeneous game, but I really think it shouldn't be. I think it needs like a campaign mode and then a multiplayer mode. And I know some folks probably don't want to have to switch between the 2 modes, but I feel like if they did, it would do the world more justice. The world that they built more justice if they had a campaign mode and there was one warrior of light. And that's the warrior of light everybody knows. So like you play through it and that's the warrior of light. And you play through the campaign. You do that to unlock all of your dungeons and whatever, and then you go into multiplayer mode, and that's your world of Final Fantasy XIV. That where you create your character going through, and just all in character roleplay wise, everybody knows the story of this one warrior of light, because that's how the story is written. It's like it's this one guy, that guy. That's it. So if you just play through the campaign mode so that you know the story, but then you go into it, would just help the brain switch between the 2, I think, and people wouldn't get this mentality of, hey, everybody's a warrior of light. It's like, no, in the world there was really only the one person that everybody knew. The out of character fashion and cosmetic items. This is the role player and world builder in me. There's a whole lot of stuff that is just players get access to for cosmetic items, and it's like, what is the precedence for this? Like, you're gonna walk around and you're gonna look completely out of place. So you end up doing these, the MSQ. Go through a cutscene, and you could be in like a freaking modern day looking bikini going through some of this stuff. And I'm like, this is a story of high magic and fantasy, and here you are in your freaking swimsuit. Like, I feel like that just breaks the immersion of it. And I know not everybody's looking for that kind of immersion. If they want to look at a pretty character in a bikini, go for it. But it's like, as a story writer, world builder, that bothered me. Let's Let's see. Okay, so we're moving on to what I loved about the game. Speaking of world building, I love that they put in their own religions, their own holidays, like their own culture rituals, the level of science understanding. I thought that they built up their cities to be very different in flavor for each one, different aesthetic. But they did it very well. It really feels like an interactive world. And then while all of the cities are different, I also like that for all of the combat classes, the weapon specific ability animations. So I'm not crazy about all of the flashy stuff, but like if you're wielding a rapier because you're playing a red mage, you will do attacks that like you would use the same motions and stuff using the rapier, like actual rapier techniques. If you're using the lance because you're a dragoon, like you're wielding it like it's a spear and not just a big clunky stick. So I loved that, and that honestly I think that's one of the main reasons that I've continued playing is just being able to watch and feel like I'm using that particular weapon like it's supposed to be used. The facial expressions of the Warrior of Light, love those. That is something very unique to this game by comparison to the other games that I've played. Just the expressions. The Warrior of Light is so expressive, and whoever the writers were knew how accurate those expressions would be. Like how many times I went through and I reacted to something and then it would pan to my character who wore the same expression as I did. Like that is amazing. Next up, the main villains of every expansion. And when you're story writing, the villain makes or breaks the story. Like you gotta have a really good villain, and I felt like they did their villains very well. The primary villains of each expansion. I'm not gonna get too spoilery, but like I loved those. Every time a villain came onto the screen, you were like, I don't gotta fight him now, do I? Stay over there. Oh crap, we're doing it. Like that's the kind of like, or they would come on and it would be just somebody you loved to hate. I feel like they really did their villains very well. I also liked that they did, maybe not the heroes, but they did the world leaders very well. Like none of the world leaders are wimps. And you would think, oh, well, why aren't they saving the world? And the answer is, well, because they have cities to run. They're bogged down by paperwork and admin, but they all have badassery in them. Some of them join you for the battle. Some of them you fight, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why you lead the entire city of pirates. Scary. So like they did their world leaders very, very well. And mad respect to each of them, and it explains why they are the ones in charge. I love that the classes that they put into the game, the combat jobs, none of them break the lore. Depending on, I mean, maybe recently with like some of the new additions of some of the races, but for the most part, like all of you literally can interchange the races with the combat classes. And it doesn't break any lore. And my WoW players know exactly what I mean when I say this, where it's like that should not freaking exist. The way they wrote the story and how they write the combat jobs as just learnable combat styles it does the world justice, and it helps to make it so that you can play whatever you want. And with any combat style, and it makes sense in the world. It totally makes sense. Love that. I also love that they keep all of their legacy areas relevant. You will be level 90 and still going to all of the major cities that you were going to when you were level 15. Like they somehow keep it all relevant. They keep some of the old instances relevant with the roulettes and stuff. I love that. You've put so much work into this content from previous years. Totally should just keep using the stuff that you've already made. I love their consistent mechanics markers in their in their dungeons and instanced content. Like when something's about to happen, they use the same marker. So it's made very easy to get accustomed to once you learn what that marker is. They even have a tutorial mode that rewards you with an experience boost ring to teach you what all these markers mean. And then they continue to use those. They'll kind of change them around a little bit in between expansions, but for the most part, they're all intuitive. You can figure them out, and it makes it so that I don't have to think nearly as hard. I don't play the game to think very hard, and I like that. I love that they keep those markers the same. It's very new player friendly. I also love that the company takes player input for a bunch of their cosmetic stuff. They will hold contests and things, and people can submit, hey, I want to see this in the game, or I want to see this piece of furniture, I want to see this hairstyle, or this this outfit or whatever. We got some really talented artists in your fan base. Like, I love that they hold these contests and then they'll actually put them into the game, the top winners. That's kind of how you get the weird, crazy, out of character fashion things that I did not appreciate, but that just means that I don't like what players are submitting. But I love that the company at least pays attention to them like that. It's a really cool sentiment. I love the Unending Journey book in all of the tavern rooms. I think that is a really cool. It's not only a really cool feature that you can go back and watch any of the cutscenes in whatever thing you're wearing. If you want to just see see those cutscenes again, makes recording things that really easy, so you don't have to constantly try to rebuild and replay through stuff. But also from a world building perspective, the idea that somebody wrote the Warrior of Light's story, and it is the most popular story on this damn planet, and it's in every single tavern room. I'm like, headcanon, it's there. Like, for me, it's in every tavern room, and every person who gets to stay in one, if they get bored, they can pick it up and start reading about the Warrior of Light's adventures. I think that's such a cool touch to what could have just been an out of game or out of character mechanic, but the idea that it is in the world canonically excites me. And finally, my last love was Shadowbringers. Like that whole expansion, everything that I was critiquing in the did not appreciate piece, I felt they fixed in Shadowbringers. And that was just the best expansion that they did. I loved that they, like, the whole thing about the 10% familiar, 90% twist. No, they went back to the 60% familiar, 40% twist. And the greatest piece about it was that they were twisting their own established lore. So you went through like the first two expansions and the base game to kind of get a feel for the lore, and then Shadowbringers like shows this different perspective. And it wasn't even retconning like WoW does. It was it's just a shift in perspective of the same phenomenons, but from a different perspective, and how that shaped these different peoples and cultures. And I thought that was amazing. And they just need to do more of that. I also I didn't appreciate like how they did it, and like the lead up into that premise, and how freaking irrelevant Shadowbringers was to the overall story. But it was a great standalone game. Like, I would if Final Fantasy XIV was just the Shadowbringers storyline, like, I'd play it. that was a great story. So yeah, favorite MSQ. Okay, so now we're getting into questions. Now that it's 40 minutes in. So questions. What was your favorite job? Red Mage. Red Mage is probably one of the main reasons I kept playing and just played in for fun. I really enjoy the uniqueness of Red Mage to the Final Fantasy XIV world. I like the lore. I like the combat mechanics. I like the aesthetics. Yeah, that's my favorite one. Dragoon probably is a close second, just because that's the one that I like how streamlined their rotation is. A lot of the aesthetic too. I like the spear. Okay, let's see. Particular moments I enjoyed, other than the Shadowbringers expansion. Were there particular moments, MSQ or otherwise, that I enjoyed? Without getting too spoilery, for folks that might be watching this for the review piece, moments that I loved. My character Caro got to fight his mentor. That was a very memorable moment. I'm still bitter about that whole encounter. But I thought it was like an epic moment that will stay with me. I liked Caro's that when he joined the Lancer Guild, his first encounter with his first rival. That I have a screenshot of the face he makes, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? It was like the first time that I feel like the character came to life, and that's that facial expression piece that I love. I also liked encountering his second rival and all of the little jabs that they interchanged back and forth when he went Dragoon. I loved the villain entrances when you first get introduced to each of the main villains in the expansion. Like, it is a significant emotional event, and you're just like, oh shit, he's a badass and I hate you, or I fear you, or like I said, I thought they did their villains really well, and all of the entrances of their villains into the introductory cutscenes were very, very good. Let's see. Roleplay wise, memorable moments I enjoyed was the Firebird Theater, and getting to go. There's a free company that is a theater group, and they put on plays in their private housing that people can come and see, and that, like, seeing how they did it, how they used all of these creative tools in the game was really awesome. Like, I think that they did that really well. It was a polished product, and it's just a bunch of players that put it, like, but they know what they're doing, and it's very well rehearsed. It's very well done, and for me, it was just a shout out from the role play that I did in WoW. But they took it, like, to the next level, and it was really cool. And then the last moments that I enjoyed was the Endwalker closure. So, like, the final, like, couple quests in Endwalker to complete the story. I thought, like, even this trailer that keeps playing over and over, like, it's a really good tie up. It's a big pretty bow at the end of this epic quest line, and they just do such an amazing job of bringing it all together. I thought. I may have snarked while I was doing it because I wasn't particularly attached to the story, but I have to imagine empathetically those who are very attached to the story. Like, there were a lot of elements they did really, really well. Let's see. Was the journey worth it? Now, I know they asked this in the game. The NPCs will actually ask you that. And I made some snarky comment about it. Yes. like it was a fantastic, enlightening learning experience, getting to see just the comparison, to see certain techniques in action, how a different company took a similar game to what I'm used to, but they addressed different aspects of the game to differently. So, I mean, you have like your normal things of how do you handle quests, how do you handle lore, how do you handle outfits, and so it was very interesting to see how a different company took those same things and then changed how they implemented them based on the company's values. You know, where is the lore located, or how do they convey it, that sort of thing. And I liked that it kind of challenged my own thoughts on writing and world building. You know, how much do you change? How much should you keep in that's familiar? And how much do you make totally new before you start losing members of the audience, right? So I thought it was very, very enlightening, and worth all of the pain that I went through, but also a lot of the good times too. And then, do I plan to do more content exploration in the game? Do I plan to continue or delve into some of the side content? Yeah, I do. There's definitely a lot of it. There's a lot of things I'm curious about just from the world building perspective, how certain things work. I think a lot of that is locked behind the raids that were for each expansion, and I'd like to see what they came up with for those. Yeah. So that said, going forward. So this is as much for me as it is for any new players that are looking to join the game but aren't sure how to play it, where to start, what class to play, etc. So I got a couple notes on this one, and then we're gonna be done. So things that I wish I had known going in. How do you play the game? Everybody will tell you, take the MSQ at your own pace, but they never explain what the hell that means. So for those who desire structure, take the MSQ at your own pace. What this means is acknowledge that not every single little piece of the MSQ is fucking important. It's not. They put in so much stuff in there that it's just so much fluff. And what I found reading other articles about how people play this game towards the end, like, people skip things. Normal people skip things. I thought it was like a sacrilege to like skip cutscenes, but apparently, if you haven't seen them all the way through yet, no, normal people just skip things when they find it boring. And I was like, what? You're encouraging this? What? You encourage people to skip your cutscenes because you purposefully made them boring? Why would you do that? And the answer is because they figure you're a normal freaking person who, like, if you don't like a particular page in a book, you just, whatever, you skim over it. So skimming, totally acceptable. Like, don't interpret people's hype for the story as you must hang off the edge of every single little word of every cutscene, of every dialogue box that occurs. You do not have to. They're really not that important. Like, the ones that are important are all voiced, and you can pretty much skip everything else, or just read the quest log. So for me, it's going to be, going forward, I got to find how best to digest the MSQ in a manner that I like. And it's not going to be what I just did for 232 hours, which was every single word I was trying to find some sort of meaning or intense moment. It's not there. It's not written to be that way. That's not how it's supposed to be digested. So go at your own pace, but know what that is. It's okay to skip some things, or to skim over it. when you're choosing your character, so what to play, know that your character can change classes. So if you go in and you're like, I'm going to make the knight in shining armor type, you're already doing it wrong. You're already doing it wrong. I mean, unless you just absolutely love Paladin, but if you've never played it and maybe there's something about Paladin that just doesn't work for you, like, the storyline or whatever. So make a character that's made for a world full of ever-learning sorcerers and warlocks. That's how I see it. It is a world of sorcerers and warlocks. And they're always learning new ways to use their power or to gain power from some other entity or whatever. Like that's the kind of character you need in this particular game. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a lot of disconnects out of character stuff. If that's your thing and you're okay with it, great. I am not. I went into it like I'm playing a dude. My dude does melee stuff. He doesn't wield a whole bunch of magic. And little did I know, pretty much every class has some sort of magic. They all have magic. So, sorcerers. They're all sorcerers and warlocks. Okay. And then don't assume anything when they when they name drop big lore characters, and not like Final Fantasy XIV lore characters. I mean like lore from outside. People make such a huge deal over the MSQ spoilers stuff that so much as saying the name of the main villain or whatever is sacrilegious. No, it's not. Final Fantasy XIV hates spoilers. It does. And the writers know this. So when they put out a whole bunch of content, they actually make it so that even if someone says a name or you go through a particular dungeon or whatever, if you see the dungeon before you are at that point in the story, it doesn't matter. They made it all very irrelevant, actually. It's kind of annoying. So like it's not, none of it was any big turning point in the story that the dungeon contributed to. All happens in the cutscene at the end. So there's pretty much no way, unless someone directly says this is how the story goes and this is what happens in those cutscenes, like, doesn't matter. Nobody can that's the only way that somebody can spoil it for you, is if they actually call out those plot twists. But just saying what encounters are in the game, what mechanics happen, they're all spoiler proof. I call I could say that there's a trial called the final day, and you're like, okay, what's that? No context, no spoiler. And even when you do know the context and you go in, you still have no idea why you're fighting this guy. Like, they specifically make it so that none of it is relevant. So it's okay. You're not going to go in being crazy about spoilers. Like, it's really hard to spoil even their trailers don't actually spoil anything. You think they do. They don't. They don't spoil shit. So yeah. And then be prepared for the anime-isms. It's an anime game. And then go in with the idea that you're going to level by yourself and just do the instanced content or social content with other people. But you're going to level by yourself. You're going to go through the story by yourself. I joined the game thinking that it was going to be the way that my husband and I were gonna bond, and I found out that we couldn't actually enjoy the story together. They literally make you split up the party. It's a single player campaign mode, and then you get to do stuff that you unlocked later. So that would be my tips on how to play the game. Things I wish that I had really internalized. I'm sure I was told. Somebody's going to say, I told you all of this before you started. Yeah, okay. I can see it now. Those are my warnings on how to play the game and how I'm going to have to approach it from this point on. So there you go. After almost an hour, that's my deep dive feedback and review of Final Fantasy XIV from the perspective of a multi-decade WoW player and story writer. So overall, great game. I'm still going to be playing it. It's not going to replace all my other stuff, but I'll still play it.